Welcome to Scribing Journeys, episode 34, with myself, Jagdeep Sahans, calligrapher, and my beautiful, wonderful special guest, Charlotte Cargan. I hope I pronounced that right. But before we dive in and have a chat, as always, I'd like to take a moment to express our appreciation to Andy, aka Zen Pagan of the Dale, for hosting Holistic Radio and giving us ordinary folk a platform to share our voices. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all the presenters who generously share their knowledge with us. So today I am absolutely thrilled to have Charlotte Antwater Diviner, who has spent the last 2 years quietly uncovering the forgotten wells of Kinsale. She's already found over 100 buried wells and has restored many of them to flowing water again. Through this work, she's gained deep practical insights into wells, water, and what it means to care for something that has been overlooked for a long time. She's also the author of a book called Wellbeing, about Kinsale's wells and everything that they've taught her. So without further ado, hello, Charlotte.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much. That was a really beautiful introduction. Thank you. And thank you, Andy, so much for having me on this radio station. And thank you for hosting it. Yeah, very grateful and honored to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure.
In the last few years, yeah.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
That's okay. I'm kind of like, I'm a bit, we'll just go with the flow.
Yeah.
So anyway,
exactly.
Earlier on, I was sort of trying to find out a little bit about you, and I came across an article about you that talked about your journey. So I would love you, if you don't mind, to start off about how you got into this wonderful journey about water.
Wow. Well. I guess really it started when I was 23. So that was 21 years ago. And I had moved back from London and I was restoring my grandfather's garden in Kinsale, the town where I now live. And I suppose I really needed to earth and ground myself and connect with the land again after a few years of living in the city in London and just feeling this deep call home here, but to connect with it in a very deep way. So I started to restore the garden. And as I did so, I began to unearth this amazing well that was buried in a corner of the land. And this well had really intrigued me as a child. I didn't know it was a well. None of us really knew it was a well. It was just something poking up in the corner of the garden, and it was the corner of the garden that no one really went to. So I just felt such a pull to this area when I came home, and I began to dig. And I just kept digging, and it took quite a long time. I mean, goodness knows how long this structure had been buried for. But what emerged was this beautiful well house with 6 1-meter steps carved into the ground rock going down into the beneath the earth well house. And I wasn't quite sure it was a well at first. It was only when the following day I returned to sort of be with this interesting structure again that I was fascinated to see it had filled with the most beautiful water. And I realized, my gosh, this is an amazing well. And there and then I just began to drink this water. And I thought it was quite the most beautiful water I'd ever had the experience of. And from that day forth, for the last 21 years, I go to that well every day when I'm here, and I gather my drinking water there. I walk to the well every morning as my start to my day, and I sit in prayer with the land, with the water, just in the stillness there, gather my water with love and gratitude, and bring it back to our house. So this relationship with water has deepened with every day that's passed, over 21 years of this being a daily ritual. And in the last few years, I came across this map, and it was a 1932 map of the town on which there were 30 other wells marked that, nobody knows of. And I thought, my gosh, there's going to be another 30 of these incredible wells buried that that nobody's aware of. So I began to walk around the town, up little streets and alleyways, looking for where these wells on this old map was. And the layout of the town has changed quite a bit since that was drafted, 100 years ago. So I just had to knock on people's doors and say, look, I think you may have, according to my map, an ancient well in your garden. And, thankfully, because our family have been here for 4 generations, people sort of know us. And, it wasn't, too, scary for them just to let this random person in, Besides which, I sort of had welly boots on, a baby in my arms. I think I looked, people were wonderful. They were very welcoming. And so sure enough, I began to go into people's gardens and find all of these extraordinary wells that they had no idea they had either,
Wow.
And but then I began to, tune ever more deeply into the water and follow the lines and the channels of these springs and these waters. And they would then, and I would follow them and think, gosh, there's going to be another well here, actually, in this person's garden. Now, this isn't on the map, but this flow is going right here into this. So I would knock on their door too. And, anyway, the long and the short of it is, with this journey, I found over 100 wells. There were 30 on this map, but I found 70 more. And, I'm only a third of the way through the town. So I got this wonderful group of friends, and I just called upon them, and they're so brilliant. And, we would meet on Sundays in Kinsale, and with the permission of the people who had these wells in the garden, go and dig them and clear them and restore them. And we would spend Sundays doing this as a group. We called ourselves the Well Maidens. And my beautiful friend Caroline Robinson, who is a farmer, and so a lot of digging experience. I really have to give I really would like to acknowledge her phenomenal support throughout this whole project. So, so we've certainly cleared at least 30 now in the town, but we have a long way to go. It's a big project. But I thought, having come this far and learned as much as I've learned, I would record it and write a book about it, because, these are unrecorded wells. And just in the last 2 years since I've started finding them, 4 of them got built over, and I thought it's actually very urgent to make people aware of this incredible forgotten heritage.
Sorry, Charlotte. I just interrupt you there for a second.
Of course.
Did you just say built over? Like,
yes.
4 of the wells that you discovered have now been built over?
Yeah, well, I was aware that they were there because I had found them, but there were building developments in these places, and those building developments went ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you see, there is what's alarming to realize is these unrecorded wells, these unremembered, unrecorded wells, of which we have thousands all over the country. Of course, there is absolutely no protection of them whatsoever. And, for instance, the beautiful well here in our garden, there was actually a danger of that part of that land being sold, and planning permission granted for a building over that too, with extended family, but thankfully I've managed to save that from happening. But with another well just up the road from here, the land was bought 10 years ago, and this family moved in, and they were building, a big sort of modern house, as people do these days. And this ancient well that was sitting on the land, they obviously had no regard for, because people have sort of lost awareness of what they are, And so, they asked the builders just to knock that well house down, not realizing what it was, so that they could extend this house. Thankfully, the builders, having knocked, sadly, the top of the well house down, and then just really had a moment to pause and look at the magnificence of this well beneath, said, look, actually, we just cannot build over this, So just due to those conscientious builders, that well didn't get built over, though the well house got demolished. So you see, that's what's happening actually all over the land, and that's why it is so urgent that we remember this heritage, and that we act as community now to find the wells around us again, and to clear them and to restore them, and in doing so, to protect them, to bring them back to awareness again. It's absolutely vital. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really caught my attention when I came across you first was you were standing at, I apologize that I don't know the original name of the river, but that was the
Yeah.
Blackwater River.
Yeah.
And that was what caught my attention. That's, I was just like, oh, I have to talk to this lady,
Yes.
because I have an affiliation with water as well.
Yes.
And, I feel that that's where we connect. And then as well, you also talk about divining, and you talk about dowsing and
Yeah.
the energy. So there's a lot of awareness about you. Can you tell me, Charlotte, when and where did that awareness for the energy of the water and the intelligence of the water begin for you?
I think I always had a real sense of that, even as a child. I was very connected with nature and very tuned into energies. And I was really fortunate that I spent a few of my childhood years in Africa, in the wilds, really just wild and free in nature. So I kept this wonderful connection that, is severed in a lot of people, through just life in the system. So I think I was very, very blessed to have that wild existence that I did in my childhood. And I felt we lived quite near Great Zimbabwe, which is an amazingly sacred and powerful site. And I could feel the energy and the power of it, and so I think I've always had that amazing connection. And when I left school, I felt a pull to go to India and to travel because just spiritually, I guess I was searching, And so I went off to India, and it was the sacred bodies of water and sites around water that I felt most pulled to. And I made my way right up, at that tender age, to the mouth of the River Ganges. And I bathed in her there. And I just fell in love with the water when I was sitting there with Mother River Ganges. I just remember singing, I love you, I love you, I love you, Mother, I love you. It was just pouring from me, And I was and my tears were flowing into the river with the tears of joy. And, I just found it so beautiful to see, in India, the reverence for the River Ganges, well, for water all over the land, but the thousands of pilgrims every day who are lining the River Ganges, which they honor as the goddess still, as our ancestors did with our rivers. And, they pick cups of water up in their hands and praise it and give it gratitude and love, and then pour it over themselves and pour it back into the river and bring bottles of it home to their house to bless their house with and their loved ones with. And, they bring their dying and their dead to the river for purification. And, it's so beautiful. They've still kept this ancient connection going, which we had here. All peoples all over Earth had this. And coming back to the River Blackwater, that was not her original name. That's a name that our oppressors of the divine feminine, of the living water's full life, of Mother Earth, of the goddess, have given the river. Her name was Awen Muira, which is River Mary, and that was probably a later name, as well, in Christian times, that was given when we still had Irish as the language. But it was probably just originally something to do with the goddess, like the River Bandon, which flows into the town that I live in here, was called Bandia, which means the goddess, So her name was actually the goddess. It's so beautiful. And the custom house on the banks of the River Liffey, and the original name of that river was the River of Life, Oswego. But the custom house along that has 14 keystones, and those keystones are one for each of 13 keystones, one for each of the 12 major rivers of the land, and then one for the Atlantic, which they all flow into. And it's just, and then it was repurposed, of course, as a custom house. But actually, all of these buildings were connected with energy lines, with waters, and with an amazing harmonic grid throughout the whole land and throughout the whole earth. And through studying the waters, I've been really coming to realize more and more of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You don't happen to know what the original name of the River Barrow is, do you?
I don't know what the River Barrow's name was, but the River Barrow is one of the 12 major rivers of the land, and it's connected to one of the keystones of the custom house, And it's really interesting when you look at the custom house in more detail, and you realize it was built as a harmonic resonator building, connected to these 12 major rivers into the Atlantic Ocean. And every river sort of has a note, just like every
Okay.
well has a note. They each have a frequency that they carry, and it's like each one of the sort of chakras in our body has a note that it sounds.
Hmm.
It's so interesting. What I've realized with the well houses is that when you go into it, some wells are built specifically along energy lines of the land, and they are part of this beautiful harmonic resonator grid. And so those wells would have been kept really well and in divine flow with love and gratitude poured into them, which we know brings water to its highest vibrancy and frequency. And they were then
Hmm.
flowing into rivers, so every river of the land has several wells along its bank that our
Hmm.
ancestors would have gone to and kept in the highest charge, so that that water
Hmm.
then, which is flowing straight from the other world into this world, is then running with the highest charge into the rivers to keep them in their highest charge. And each of those well houses would have a note. So you go into a well house, put your head into it, and you just sort of tone up and down, and you find the note of that well house and of that water and of that energy line that you're on. And when you find it, the whole well house starts to actually vibrate. When you've
Wow.
hit it, you just can't mistake it. And we've had the most amazing experience with several wells that we've cleared, which are beneath these well houses.
Hmm.
When we have cleared them and got them flowing again, first of all, the divine is so grateful to have divine flow restored and not to be blocked anymore and be able to actually
Hmm.
move and flow
Hmm.
freely, that the water actually starts to light up into a sort of different color, a very distinct turquoise hue. But then as you sing to it and you find the note of that well house and the note of that energy line that it's running along, and you really get it, it actually lights up. And we've had experiences where the water has actually become fully glowing in this vibrant blue light. It's absolutely
Wow.
magnificent, and it shows,
Wow.
oh, our ancestors were so in tune with all of this, and we
Mm.
forgot, but we're remembering now.
Yes, we are definitely going through a remembering, and I think more and more people that are aware of this kind of deep connection we have with water, it's going to become even better. I actually live by the River Barrow, which is why I asked you that
Oh,
question.
beautiful.
And
Great.
but when I saw that video of yours, I have my jug here and I have my bottles here,
Oh,
and
great.
as you know, I'm a calligrapher and I have
Yes,
love and gratitude on them.
great, great.
So I took my after watching you, I was like, oh really? Can you do that with a river? I
Yes,
went ran downstairs, done it, and I just poured it into the river, and I did
great.
the water prayer, which I shared with you, the Ho'oponopono water prayer,
Beautiful.
which was influenced by Douglas, a conversation that I had with Douglas and yourself, and then
Great.
all of this came together. So that was so inspirational for me,
Oh,
so thank you so
well,
much.
love and
And
gratitude, as Masaru Emoto demonstrated so beautifully, and he did incredible work to show us the consciousness of water, and
mm,
such gratitude to him.
mm,
Love and gratitude bring water to the most perfect crystal structures. And, remembering that it's all very well working externally with wells and with rivers, but it's got to start with our own waters. We
mhm,
are wells ourselves, we must remember. As
mhm,
adults now, we're existing, on average, as about 70% water. Our
mhm,
body is a well containing ever flowing water. And, to give ourselves love and gratitude every day. I've got a daily practice now when I go to the well and I give her love and gratitude and gather our water. And I come back and I have my first glass of water here, to start my day. I give myself love and gratitude, so that
mm,
just to keep our own flow flowing. And we see these wells literally lighting up. And as Masaru Emoto captured, water particles, they form perfect crystals when you give them love and gratitude and acknowledgement. So that's happening with every drop within our bodies when we do that. It's such a simple practice to start each day with, and it's
mhm,
such an important one. And if we do that with every river that we pass by, as you did with the beautiful River Barrow, and if we're all doing this, as we pass
mm,
by a river or a lake, then what we're doing is massively charging that
mm,
river, and our love and gratitude is being carried throughout the earth. It all connects. If we're all doing this, think about how quickly everything can restore to harmony and divine flow and ultimate wellness again. The water is the key
mm.
to it all. It really is. It really is.
It is actually. Yeah,
And I
it
suppose
is.
that's why such efforts have been made to block us from having that connection with the waters. You know, our wells have been blocked. You know, our
Hmm.
rivers were renamed. You
Yeah.
know, and now we've got Ishka Erin here in Ireland. You know, who are running all of the water treatment and production of the
Mm.
whole land, and all of their treatment centres are on springs. You know,
Yes.
they're all. And what I've come to realize patterns in finding wells. I realize, well, if you want to find an old well, first of all, one of the things you can do is go to where Ishka Erin have their water treatment plants. There, you will surely find ancient wells surrounding it. You know, um,
Oh,
we were
really?
recently on the grounds of Macroom Castle, and knowing this, we went to where Ishka Erin have their water treatment plant there on the river, and of course, right beside it, we found an ancient well, you know, that was long forgotten, covered over. So yeah, there in my book, I've written pages and pages on where you will be sure to find wells from my observations. You know. Um,
Hmm.
and then, you know, and guides as to, you know, yeah, how to find these wells, and then when you find them, how to clear them. Because, you know, a lot of people think, oh, but I wouldn't know where to begin clearing a well. You know, but
Yeah.
actually this is very intuitive work, you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's, you just begin, and the way you begin is you sit with the well, and you sit on the land, and you talk to
Hmm.
her as you would to a being. And you know, as you would to anyone who's been suffering, you say, I see you, and I feel you, and I hear you, and I acknowledge you, and I'm so sorry that you have suffered, and I'm so sorry that you've been so dishonored, and I'm here to help you, and I'm here to work with you and to restore you to divine flow. Show me the way. You know, and you ask for that guidance from land. And we have to come back to realizing the land is so alive, and we can just work directly with her, and she's so responsive, and she'll communicate directly with us. We will receive the guidance if we talk to her about it. She'll show us exactly what she needs to be pulled out of where. And, you know, it's, every well is a different structure, and every well is a different story in the clearing. But when you work with the land and you just ask for the guidance, you get shown the way. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And the signs you get, we cleared an ancient well in County Monaghan recently, and oh my gosh, it was just buried under meters of, it actually was filled with barbed wire, and then just filled with rocks and mud and everything else. I don't know when it had been last flowing, decades and decades ago. But we
Wow.
just started digging, and we dug and we dug, and it was wonderful. The whole community in the area came out, they got involved. It was such a beautiful day. You know, people were really curious to see this happening, and people helped. We all took it in turns to get in and keep digging. And, you know, we reached where we knew the well floor was, and we said, okay, now we'll just wait. And so we did, and we went back the following day. And again, this well was full of water. It was so wonderful, and everyone felt the joy. And as we were standing there looking at this well full of water again, 10 swans flew over us. I mean, what a beautiful
Wow. Oh my
sign from the
gosh.
universe. And, you know, we get that all the time. It's so beautiful. The
Wow.
universe just saying, thank you. You know, the signs are always there. We're being guided. I mean, I found one well, imagine. There was a site I knew there was going to be wells at. So I went over, and I was walking around the land and just tuning into the waters. And then a little robin came by, and robins are always messengers of the other world. So I said, okay, have you come to show me where the well is? I'm here to find, you know, where the main well is here, you know? And I just knew he said, follow me. You know, when you just know this bird is saying, follow me. So he was, you know, the way robins do, just jumping around. Oh, and he led me along through the woods, and he was just jumping, definitely leading me, you know. And I was following him. And then he arrived at this patch about 100 meters from where I first met him. And he stopped there, and he did a little tweet, 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 and jumped up into the tree beside. And I started feeling the ground where he was, and sure enough, it was very damp, really damp. So I started to dig a bit, and I was like, "Gosh, no, this is this is really damp," you know. And I started to observe some of the plants that were around it, which are plants that grow around this really fresh spring, pure water. And I've put those plants into my book as well. They help you identify when you're by this really pure water. And so I said, right, I know there's a well here. So I gathered the team. We went back there with the last full moon of 2024, and we dug for gold. And do you know the well basin that was buried there? I mean, gosh, we were digging 6 hours, but we unearthed this magnificent heart-shaped well basin. Isn't that beautiful? It was carved as a heart. Oh my gosh, it was, and under the full
Oh,
moonlight, and the robin had guided
oh,
me. The robin had shown me where it was. So you see, that's the beauty when we just ask for guidance. We're always shown the way. We just have to
oh,
ask. We
wow.
just have to ask and see the signs and trust in them, and come back to using our intuition again, our inner
Yeah.
tutor. Yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just
Oh my gosh,
beautiful.
that's so inspiring, and like it's just pulling on me here just listening to your stories. You said there that I've got a couple of questions that
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
have been. I think you actually have already answered one of them, but
Okay.
what is her name is Trisha, and this is the question that she asked. She
Yes.
asked, "How have you found water that when when you're
Mhm.
opening a well,
Mm.
is the water drinkable when you
Yes.
open these?" Oh,
Well,
lovely.
now at first, when you open a well, it
Hmm.
might have been very blocked for a very long time, so you
Right.
wouldn't, you can tell some wells when we opened them. There, I mean, I'll just give a quick example. There
Okay.
was a well I knew was in the back of a yard of someone's house because I'd been following the water channels, and I knew that there was
Hmm.
going to be a well in this yard. So I knocked on this door in Kinsale, and there was a
Hmm.
guy there in the middle of doing, working online in some sort of fancy online job. And,
Hmm.
this was a bit of an inconvenience. Some woman at the door with a baby in her arms and welly boots saying, "Do you mind if I just look in your garden for a well?" And he said, "I don't even have a garden, I only have a yard." And I said, "Well, can I look in your yard for a well?" And he was like, "Well, I can tell you there's no well in my yard." Anyway, he just, to get me away, and I think, he said, "Okay, just come have a look." So went into his yard, and there was this old kind of concrete drain covering. I said, "Have you
Hmm.
ever lifted that?" And he said, "Well, no, I mean, it's probably the sewer or something." I said, "No, no, no, it's not the sewer. Let's lift that." So, it was difficult to lift because it probably hadn't been lifted for 70 years. We lifted
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Took us quite a bit of an effort, but he was getting more intrigued. And beneath it was a 4 meter deep and 4 meter wide well that extended actually beneath his house with the most,
Wow.
it was all built with amazing dry stone walling. This ancient vessel, so magnificently beautiful. And the water was full to the brim, but not overflowing. Hence, he had no idea it was even there. There's no damp in the
Hmm.
house or anything else. So it was
Hmm.
flowing perfectly, this well. All its inflow channels and outflow channels, thankfully, were all completely clear. And the water was filling and flowing, and if
Hmm.
these wells are the inflow and outflow channels are clear, then they're flowing and they're perfect. So I didn't hesitate to put my hands in right then and there and drink from that well, and I did.
Right.
And it was wonderful water, and there's been
Hmm.
many other, so you have to use your kind of tune into it, look at the
Hmm.
well. Does the water look stagnant, or does it look like it's flowing? um
Right.
but yes, once you've got a well flowing, then most of these ancient wells were built to gather naturally rising spring waters. So they're not gathering
Hmm.
surface runoff water. They're not gathering rainwater or, any kind of runoffs. They're actually gathering naturally rising spring waters. So these waters are amazingly pure,
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and when, sometimes the spring isn't exactly where the vessel is. The spring might be a little further away, but they've built the vessel to gather the water in along a channel of it, and there may be several ancient wells along that channel. I mean, a lot. I've started to map the lines of wells in the town now, because you get 4 or 5 or 6 along a channel of a spring.
Ah.
So so you see the one at the bottom of this, would rely on the other 5 being in good flow in order for it to be in good flow, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Um, so you have to you have to make sure that, yeah. So but some wells, the spring is rising right there and where they are, and
Hmm.
generally then they're it's, oh yeah, I mean, this water isn't just okay to drink, it's amazing to drink.
Hmm.
And it's actually very important that we drink it, because this water is completely alive. The water that we're drinking out of taps has been so heavily processed and filtered and
Yes.
chlorinated
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
fluoridated. It's forgotten who it is, just like
Mm.
we have. Most of us are unconscious, we've
Hmm. Hmm.
forgotten who we are,
Yeah.
whereas this water knows exactly who it is.
Hmm.
It's absolutely 100% conscious, and when we drink that water, it immediately activates remembrance within us. It reminds all the waters immediately within us who they are. And it actually hugely enhances, our awakening, which is something that we're all in the midst of right now. And I think that a quickening of the awakening will happen if people would actually drink the really highly conscious waters direct from Mother Earth again, which is the divine design of life, and as we should be doing, yeah.
That's you're reminding me of a village I lived in moons ago, where they had a healing well, and that's how everybody referred to it, as the healing well. And I think that's what you are talking about there, that all of these waters are incredibly healing for us.
All of them, yes.
All of them are. Do you know, Charlotte, I hope you don't mind, but I know Douglas is here somewhere, and I'd love maybe have a conversation with us. Yes?
Yes, I'd love to. And just on that point of the healing wells. Yeah, sorry, Douglas, is that you?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, you were about to say, Charlotte?
Oh, I was just about to say, depending on the rocks that where their springs are rising, it will depend on what the mineral content is of that particular water. It will obviously affect the mineral content of that particular water. So, different physical ailments would require different, maybe minerals, etc. for their healing. So, different waters have, some are very high in iron. They're called chalybeate wells, and the water in those will be quite a red color, and sometimes you'll see the rocks in the well will be quite a red color, and that will be a sign, okay, there's a lot of iron in this water. And then, other rocks will be full of other well houses rather will have a lot of calcium deposits on look for the mineral deposits and signs of what minerals are in that water on the stone around. You can see it, and you can often taste it. And every well water has a different taste. I'm not a wine connoisseur. I have no interest at all in drinking alcohol. And people I know that go to vineyards and they have all of these wine tastings. I'm a water taster, where I go to wells and I'm like, oh, this water is amazing. It's got this fragrance and it's got this flavor, and every well has a different taste. And Caroline, who is a water and well enthusiast like I, who clears with many with them, we just marvel at the different flavors of all the waters in these wells. They've all got different healing properties, but they're all healing, very healing.
All healing, yeah.
Of body, mind, and soul, all levels. Yeah.
I think I just while talking to you, because I've been interested, and that moment when I discovered the healing well in Old Lachlan, that's when my journey began. And Douglas's journey began probably earlier than that. Would you say, Douglas?
Yeah. My journey began when I was at school, and I was a cross-country runner, going across a stream, and there was a stone, a white mark through it. It was a centimeter wide, and I brought it back to school, and I cracked it open and saw this white material. It wasn't quartz, and white material, and I showed it to a member of staff. And he said, that's a fossil, and I didn't know what the hell a fossil was. So that started me in geology. And later on, I got into, I was actually supplying equipment to a well driller, and he needed to do some divining, some water and divining. I have a question for Charlotte. At the beginning of your talk, you were talking about map.
Yeah.
Were you using a regular ordnance survey, or were you using a 6-inch map?
It's a regular Ordnance Survey map, Douglas, but it's the only one I've ever come across that has wells marked on it, actually, you know. So this is a regular Ordnance Survey map, 1932, Kinsale. It's about, I've got it here framed on my wall, I guess it's about 3 foot by 2 foot, you know. And these wells were marked on it. Now, not all of them said well. Some of them were just marked with a W or a circle, but I came to realize those are marking wells, you know. So if you're looking at an Ordnance Survey map, look for Ws or little circles, you know, because those often indicators of wells. But I've since looked for Ordnance Survey maps that might mark wells around the land, and I haven't come across any that whoever this Ordnance Survey maker was in Kinsale in 1932 might have just been a slight rogue Ordnance Survey maker, you know. Because I went to Cork, and I got all the Ordnance Survey maps going back to I think they don't go back any earlier than 1750s for the city, but I poured through all of them, and I could only find 4 wells marked in the city of Cork, you know, in the last 300 years on Ordnance Survey maps. Whereas there are so many more than that, you know, and actually even those 4 that they have marked have all been demolished.
I was just about to say, it's a good thing they're not marked, you know. There's something inside of me that says it's a good thing that they weren't identified.
Well, I don't know, because it is and it isn't. But if they're unknown of as well, then there's just no protection over them. You know, if people are unaware of them, because I've been alarmed to see how many just in this last few years in Kinsale were just built over. And in fact, Caroline and I and our group, we had a wonderful time. I realised there was this old building in Kinsale that was up for sale with full planning permission for it as a site in 1 or 2 lots for the building of, you know, more of these huge glass box houses. And I thought, oh my gosh, but this is an ancient tower. How? Because I'd realized, you know, that there's a lot of towers in the town that towers are connected with wells on this energy grid as well. But I thought, gosh, this is an ancient tower. This isn't just some site that can be demolished. So knowing, as I do now, that all old towers are surrounded by wells, and all round towers have a cross-section of rivers, streams beneath them, I started to realize that there would be wells around this tower. And I got Caroline and the girls and I said, look, this building's about to be demolished. We need to go and we need to find the wells to save this building. So we went along one night and we found an ancient well beneath the tower. It was covered in overgrowth and ivy and totally and utterly blocked up. But I knew this is a well. So we went back and we actually got hard hats and high-vis jackets, because we thought we need to look official, you know. Otherwise we're going to be pulled out. But what has to be done here has to be done. So we went along in high-vis jackets and, you know, hard hats, so that we looked like we were official council workers, whatever. And we dug out that well. And we spent hours doing it, and we got that well completely flowing again. And it is a magnificent well. It was completely hidden. No write-ups of that building mention the well. And I shared it far and wide, you know, in the Ancient and Holy Wells of Ireland site, on our town's Facebook page, wherever I could. And I said, this building, you know, is not a site, you know. This is heritage. And look, there's this ancient well beneath it. This is clearly an ancient tower. We must protect and honour this. Well, somebody saw that post and bought the building, and isn't going along with the dreadful plans to demolish the tower and build glass boxes, but is instead going to be restoring the tower and honouring the well. So, you know, we had to take that action, and it really worked. You know, that building would be gone by now if we hadn't done that, and that well would be gone. So I think now we're in the time of this beautiful remembering, and essential to our remembering is connecting with the waters again, you know, and getting them all flowing again, because where we have blocked waters, it affects the energy flow of all the people around it and of the land. I mean, one well in a garden, the guy was really sick. He's only my age, in his 40s, but he was on a Zimmer frame because he had such a bad back, you know, and he and I thought, this is because you've got such a blocked well in your garden. I bet you anything, when we get that well flowing again, your own waters will flow well again. You know, they're responding to what. So we got his well flowing again, and sure enough, he was walking again within a few months, you know. So, you know, we can't underestimate how interconnected it all is, you know, and that's why it is so important we get these wells flowing again. You know, it affects the flow of all life.
Yes, indeed. To be honest, I didn't actually realise how important wells were until this conversation, and I have an absolute new reverence for the wells that are out there, and I think I might go off searching for wells around.
And once you start, you'll get the bug.
Because honestly, I you know, I don't know why, but it never occurred to me about how important the wells are, and being sort of aware of the energies in the land and the energies in us and the water and the water pollution that's going on at the moment, that's been going on for forever,
Yeah.
And having that, if you like, interest and knowledge, but not being aware of the wells. I'm wondering to myself, how many more people are out there that don't, or that weren't aware? It's not that I'm not aware of water, but weren't aware of the importance of keeping wells thriving and crystal clear.
Well, I'd say the majority of people don't have that awareness anymore, sadly, but more and more people are remembering, there is a huge resurgence of interest in the wells and the waters, which is so wonderful to see. And, we have to thank Missouri Emoto, but also Vida Austin, if you've heard of her. She's doing wonderful work at the moment.
Yes, I have, yes.
Has a worldwide audience, which is beautiful to see. And she's really, sort of continuing on where Mazzaro left off, showing the consciousness of water, so there is this great remembering, and the beautiful Mother Earth is having a wonderful. She herself is really rising at the moment, and she is really rising strongly. The goddess is rising again. The divine feminine is, and we're all this beautiful mix of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in the beautiful balance of all life,
Yes.
and then the harmony, the unity, the balance point is that ultimate Cree space. Cree is the Irish word for the heart. So I always see, Cree space as creation and one with creator. And when we restore this balance, we've been living in a patriarchal system, in the matrix that we've all been living in, which is sort of the false mother, and everything is so inverted there. It's actually been a patriarchy, but a toxic one. It hasn't been the true masculine, because the true masculine isn't toxic masculine, and he doesn't feel need to repress the feminine in order to feel powerful. The true masculine actually greets the true feminine with honor and with absolute profound respect, and you have this wonderful balance and beautiful unity, and that's the ultimate creative space when there's that beautiful symbiotic, just really that gorgeous balance again, and that's what we're restoring as we raise the feminine again, who's been so squashed. We restore this beautiful balance, and that's where we're all returning to divine flow again, and that is happening. It really is. It's part of these wonderful times we're in. And of course, we're entering the age of Aquarius as well. So it's the age of the waters again, It's absolutely, the waters play a massive part here. Yeah. And, our third eye, our ancient eye, our pineal gland, that is being calcified and closed off by tap water. And that is the eye that helps us see beyond the veils of all illusions and at, the many layers of creation and the many layers of ourself that we've been sort of asleep to. And when we start drinking the really conscious waters again, they actually decalcify our pineal gland and help us to open our ancient eye again. And that is part of the awakening, when we open these ancient third eyes again, and these pure living waters, they open and activate the third eye. And many wells in Ireland, healing wells, in fact, the largest majority of healing wells are said to cure sore eyes. But what that is really referring to is that these wells help to open our third eye, and it's not about healing sore eyes. It's there's so much has been lost in translation over these centuries, since we've lost our direct true connection with the waters. So it's actually about opening our pineal gland again, because I could feel mine actually really opening when I started drinking these waters again. I could feel it, Yeah.
Could you actually? Yeah. So, I mean, the impression I was getting when you sort of started telling us your story was that you have, you sort of mentioned that you were in London, I think it was that you said.
Yes.
So that's probably the moment that you had the most fluoride and the most chlorine and etc. Because I was raised in London as well, so the water, the tap water there is horrendous.
Horrific. Oh yeah, awful. Yeah. Poor water. Oh, it's not her fault, but it's
no. But beyond our control. However, it's not really, because we can bring evil life. That's my feeling on it, but it would take us all to do things like what you are doing, I believe.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't take us all at all. It only takes, if we only have a handful of us doing, the ripple effects of that are absolutely enormous. We don't all need to be doing it, but the more of us who are doing it, the speedier the restoration of divine flow will be. But it's you'd be amazed at how powerful just a few people can be. And what we've been doing recently is gathering water from different water keepers and people from all over Earth who tend wells and rivers and lakes and springs. And there was a World Peace Gathering here in Cork last summer, and following the week on from that, it was the World Water Festival that was set up by Masaru Emoto, and we took part in it. And between those two festivals, we gathered waters into a vessel from thousands of wells, springs, lakes, and rivers all over Earth, that had been gathered by people. They came with waters gathered by their peoples, and we poured them all into a unity vessel. And we've got this unity water. And what I do now is give a little vessel of that to people, and they then get a good, bottle of a good well water as their base, pour in just that little vessel of the unity water. And because each drop contains the full memory of everything that it's ever been exposed to, when it goes into that water, it brings that whole big bottle of their well water back to full memory. And you pour that then, a little bit of it, a sprinkle of it, into each river, lake, well, wherever you flow. And it restores memory. It's just it's recording everything.
Oh,
yeah.
And is that what you were using then for that video that I?
Yes, I used that. I poured that into the River Blackwater. That was the unity water. Yeah, I poured it into the River Blackwater, and we pour it into all the wells.
Wow.
And every time we clear a well and we get her flowing again, we gather a bit of that water, and we put it into this vessel. So it's called the unity water. And so many people now all over the earth are carrying little vessels of that water. And, this prayer is going all over earth. And, it's just so incredibly powerful, and it's so beautiful. And, just a few drops of that water going into the River Blackwater, she had been so violated, oh God, the pollution that happened there last year was catastrophic. Fish were killed along a 50-kilometre stretch of the river. Just awful. But we poured in that unity water, and I have no doubt that her healing will be quite rapid, with the assistance of that, and with people's continual prayer along her banks now for her restoration of divine flow, wellness. Yeah, so we have so much more power than we realise.
Indeed.
You were saying, Jackie?
We do. I'm saying, do you know if the river, has anyone done any further tests to see what the health of the river is now?
Oh, there is just so much corruption going on with the River Blackwater. I mean, no culprit has really ever been named. There was this huge poisoning of the river. And look, a press has named that beautiful river, which was formerly Owen Muira River Mary Goddess, Black Water. And since she's had that name, this suppressive system has been doing everything possible to blacken her water and the waters of all of our rivers, and all of our waters. So it's all tied up with the toxic system, and so there's a huge cover operation happening. And no, we haven't had results of samples being given properly. Or no, it feels like it was quite a deliberate poisoning, of the river. But look, we don't want to give our attention. We know terrible things are happening, but
we do.
But we must focus. We must focus on our power and on the beauty, because when we give our energy to that, we can really make positive change, And if you are living in a city like London and you only have access to tap water, you can activate that and heal it too, If you get blue glass, there's a wonderful company called Blue Bottle Love. and you get beautiful cobalt blue glass bottles from them, and they sandblast on whatever you want onto it. So you could have love and
Oh.
gratitude, sandblasted onto it. So it's constantly, activating your water and structuring it. So you store the water in blue glass. And blue has magical properties with water. I think water lights up as a vibrant blue when it's shown love and gratitude, and often various different representations. The Divine Mother is shown in blue. Blue is magical with the waters. So the blue glass, and you open the bottle so that the chlorine, etc., a lot of the harmful chemicals in it will evaporate and rise and leave the bottle. And leave it in the sunlight in this blue glass bottle, charging in the sunlight for an hour, and and maybe earth the bottle, put it on the ground, and so just earth the water, let it have this charge of the sunlight. It's got the love and gratitude from the bottle. It's getting the light through the blue glass, and some of the chemicals are able to evaporate, and you can actually bring that water back to life again, and drink it. So when I am in cities, I always have my blue glass with me, and I do that before I drink any water. Yeah.
There's also an added bonus to that, and that is that the sunlight through the blue glass kills all of the really bad bacteria and microbes and stuff as well.
It does. And you can also, if you have copper works to really kill any harmful pathogens, so I craft little copper triscles, and I keep them in my blue glass bottles, so and that will also help to kill any harmful pathogens or bacteria or anything that may be in the water. Copper has wonderful properties with water, and before, all across this land, all of our water manholes, they're called, had these beautiful copper tops to them with a triskel, the triple spiral on it. And Ishko, which is the Irish word for water, but they've all been replaced with plastic tops. And of course, all of our pipes formerly were copper pipes, but then those started to corrode with the insane heavy chemicals that were being put into the water. So they then replaced them with thick, plastic pipes instead. But copper with water is really important. I actually always wear a copper bracelet, just so that I always have enough copper in my own system. It's really good for us, and it has magical properties with the water as well.
Indeed, it does. I have a little copper ring that I wear all the time. Charlotte, would you mind if we opened the floor?
Yes, I'd love to hear
a
from
few
anyone.
people who, yeah, okay, excellent. So please do unmute yourselves and jump in.
Well, I'll quickly just jump in and say absolutely brilliant show. Thank you very much, Charlotte and Jackie, for what we've been listening to.
Oh, thanks, Andy. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I second that emotion. I'm sorry, and really great stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love water, right? And trees. I just love trees and water. So this was great. So lovely.
Thank you, Litmus. Thank you. Douglas, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just going back to the Blackwater. Just an update. POOP, it's a dairy processing company, had allowed a discharge of ammonia. And they didn't have a kind of a backup system alarm that would let them know. I'm really very angry over this, because I've supplied monitoring equipment way back in the 80s from Germany, and the equipment is there. There's no excuse. Even if something is constant a monitoring point, they should always have a second one. So there's the
Douglas, you sound like you're underwater there, hun.
No,
you sounded like you were.
Yes, that's right in what you said. Can you hear me, Douglas?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very annoyed with the EPA, because they're so laid back. Their response was so slow, and I've done a lot of work in the past with North Cork County Council. I designed a flood warning system for them, a bit topical at the moment. And I also designed a flood warning system for the ESB at Inniscarra.
Ah,
And that sort of succeeded, but then when you leave it to a bunch of engineers to manage, they had a similar storm to what the southeast has just experienced. 3 wettings followed by a big storm, and they didn't let enough water out of Inniscarra, and the whole Cork got flooded. So
yeah, and
sometimes it's very hard to get a proper response on environmentally or hydrologically.
yeah, and it is true. North Cork Creamery are serial violators of the River Blackwater, and they had let a serious discharge of ammonia into the river. And I know that their alarm monitoring systems weren't working, but the thing is that coincided, that poisoning of the River Blackwater, with a poisoning of the river running through Douglas and Cork at the same time, and the River Boyne has been very poisoned in recent months, and Lough Neagh up in the north of Ireland is at an all-time. It's really ill, you know. So the common denominator there is not North Cork Creameries, which has got its site there on the Blackwater. It's Uisce Éireann, which has, you know, sites along all of these places. And when Uisce Éireann was audited by the EPA, it was found to have in not one of its plants where its alarm systems working to let it know if, you know, if piping systems were malfunctioning. Not one of its operating plants had its alarm systems working. So I know North Creameries were broken, but all of Uisce Éireann's are malfunctioning as well. And the common denominator, I mean, it was found to be Uisce Éireann who had released some terrible toxin into the river running through Douglas there. In an 8-kilometre stretch, all the fish were killed there in just the same time as happened to the Blackwater. And Uisce Éireann have an outlet there on a tributary to the Blackwater, and it would seem that they are. It wasn't solely the North Cork Creamery responsible for that poisoning that happened there with the Blackwater. Uisce Éireann is certainly involved, but there's just a massive in-house cover-up, you know. Yeah, and the EPA are all part of the system, so it's just, you know, we're not going to get answers there. Anyway.
I do understand what you're saying. I've been with the chief chemist at Inniscarra as there was a bit of an overdosing of water in Bantry at the water treatment plant there. So I know what can go wrong.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. You're looking for the wells.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. And Douglas, because you do water, you do dowsing, don't you? And water, you do water divining as well.
Yeah. The kind of the full works and trying to expand it all. So I don't know whether Olaf is still on the list of listeners at the moment.
I can't see an Olaf there. Yeah.
I don't know whether he's disappeared off the bottom. But I was speaking to him the other day, and if he's not here, what I'm going to suggest, he suggested it, a new divining centre up at Tumla near Carrick-on-Shannon. And when we get into operation after April, there'll be an invitation for you to come and speak.
Oh, I would love to. I'd be honoured to. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So there we are.
Oh,
we can go into more detail then.
We can go into there is so much there, because Caroline, who I do a lot of work with, who you may have met, she douses as well. So I sort of do water divining now. She's a very brilliant douser, and between us we've been going to sacred sites and following the energy lines and the water flow through them, and getting a very different picture of these sacred sites than that which was sort of told with history. We were recently, just on Sunday, we were at an amazing site called Knockdrum in Castle Townsend, West Cork, and followed the water line flowing through that and found an ancient well, along that line, not far from, that doesn't get any mention anywhere. And as far as I can see, it's unrecorded and kind of unknown of, So there's so many other dimensions that we can all explore together, and help people to remember with these sites, working together in this way now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, you wanted to say something?
Oh, me? Yeah, I wanted to ask about the map.
Yes.
Charlotte, I love maps. I wondered, have you, especially old maps? I love old maps.
Oh,
Have you?
they're delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you actually like published it anyway? You said you got it framed on your wall, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yes. Yeah.
How would you
What-
feel? How would you feel about sharing a photo? It doesn't have to be high res so you can zoom in or anything, but I would just love to see it. You know.
Oh, yes. Well, I've written this beautiful book called Wellbeing, and it's not one of these sort of naff kind of, American self-help books, but it's about it's real well-being, and in my book, I've got a full double, which is an A4 size book. I've got a full double page spread of this map. And I
great.
have circled on the map where all of the wells that I've found are. So I really want these to be seen far and wide, and for this map to be available to people, And so
Cool. Well,
I've got a really clear full double page spread in the book of the map, and I've got it framed obviously on my wall with glass over it, and I got chalk markers. So every time I found a well, I marked it on the glass over the map, with the chalk marker, and named it. So I photographed that then with a really clear image, and that's a full double page spread. So anyone will be able to see that map now and where all of these wells are. Yeah, and my book
Great.
it's actually very exciting. I'm going to the printers in the morning to collect the first print of it, and then I will
great.
proof. Yeah, so exciting! And guess what? The printers are a family-run printing company, and you know what their second name is? Waterman. It's so perfect.
Oh, brilliant!
And they have an ancient well outside their printing press. I was like, oh gosh, this is a
Amazing.
match made in heaven. So I'm collecting it tomorrow morning. I'm beside myself with excitement, and I get to then proofread the book. It's 43 pages. 243 pages, and the first section is all what I have learned about water through direct conversation with water and with the land, and being fully immersed in the waters for the last 2 years. What I've learned about water, what I've learned about wells, and I've written the first section on that, and then the second section is devoted to this town and my fine sort of tooth combing of it, and the hidden layers of heritage that I discovered. That are actually, if anyone was to look at this book and see what I discovered, hiding left, right, and center, then it'll actually help them to find those layers and those wells in any town, because it actually applies to all towns, So
Yeah.
the second section is my study of this town and all the wells of this town I found, as I found them, during the clearing process, as they were then afterwards. So you can really see it. And I hope that will then really help people to see this in every town. Anyone who reads this book should then have a really clear insight into the importance of water and wells, and and then see their own towns with different eyes, and find wells there. So the map will be in that, absolutely.
So when's the
book will be launched in April here in Kinsale. Sorry, what's that? Yeah, the book will be launching in April, and if anyone's on Facebook, I have my Facebook is Charlotte Emily Rose, and I just started in the last few days a YouTube channel called Charlotte Emily Rose, and I'm going to be uploading well findings onto that, so little 2-minute videos of the finding of a well, the clearing of a well, and the well after it, so that people can sort of see the process, so anyone interested can just sort of follow this journey and sort of get insights into how to go about doing it themselves.
Okay,
So just started a YouTube channel too.
On YouTube. I don't have Facebook, but I have a YouTube. So
Yeah, so YouTube, Charlotte Emily Rose. Jackie had shared the link with this conversation earlier. I've just uploaded about 8 videos so far of some of the well clearings that we've done.
Okay.
But
Cool.
I'll keep doing that now. I'll put one link,
Are you interested in astrology?
Yes, I am interested in astrology. Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I won't talk about it now. I don't wanna go up. I don't wanna go up.
Yeah, in the after chat, it was.
I just thought you might be somehow from what you were saying. Anyway,
yeah,
we
I'm
talked-
interested in
yeah,
astronomy and astrology, all of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, wow. Well, that's what I call astronomology. So, yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I think we should wrap up. What do you think? And if you can hang on, Charlotte, for the after chat, that would be absolutely wonderful.
Okay,
Would you
lovely.
mind?
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, is there any last words you'd like to say before I wrap the show up?
Well, I'd just like to say love and gratitude to everyone who joined this evening. Love and gratitude, and love and gratitude to the waters that flow through us all. May they all restore to pristine, divine, glowing flow. Love and gratitude.
Love and gratitude. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, I will close up the show and we can have natter afterwards. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for giving up your time this evening. I have really enjoyed it and I've learned so much from you. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's joined us live and everyone who listens back. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Next week, Douglas is back for his monthly date on the 4th of February at 7:30 here on Holistic Radio. So until then, it's good night from me.